So hello and welcome to Donny Chaingang with me and Matt Payne. We're live down here in the Full Speed Events studio, surrounded by screens, acoustic foam, lots of insulation. It's incredibly hot because we've been down here pretty much all day long. I don't think I've been let out very much at all today. Must have been bad in a previous life. Joining me down here for the Donny Chaingang, it is going to be Emma Martin. Let's welcome Emma in to the screen. She's going to have to do a little bit of juggling here. So here we go. Emma, welcome on board. We're here on the Donny Chaingang Wow DCG Women Only Wednesdays, and not riding but commentating. Is it a poor substitute?
Oh, I don't know about that, but it's lovely to be here. But I do say, a couple of weeks ago when we did the first one, all I wanted to do was get on my bike, and all I couldn't do was get on my bike.
No, indeed, it was not an option, was it, to actually get on and do that. So it was cracking, though. We've had 2 great weeks. We've had Sammy Stewart taking a victory on week 1, Millie Skinner taking a victory on week 2. And that means it's going to put some serious pressure on our next beacon. Let's go have a look where we're heading first of all. You've chosen the routes, obviously, as always. Let's have a look at the map, though, and let's see where we're heading. Here we go. Going into Libby Hill after party. But the dot is going really round the fan flats, Em.
Yeah, it is. So we are indeed on Libby Hill after party today, which means we've got a 0.3 of a lead in from the start pens. And then we do 5 laps at the fan flats. And that is, as everyone will know, flat. So we have got a long section tonight of flatlands. So 5 laps of the fan flats. And then when you get to the end of that 5th lap, you go through the second sprint down the hill. And then you go up Libby Hill to the com at the top. And that green banner at the top of that climb is the finish line tonight, and then there's a 1.8 kilometre warm down to the blue event banner.
And that gives everybody time to spin their legs out once they've gone to the top of the climb. At some point, of course, there's going to be the go, go, go triggered. But got to say a big thank you, first of all, to Swift Hacks for the mats, but more importantly, Velo Viewer, amazing graphic. It really does show that, doesn't it? Because we come in centre top on the map. We work our way very quickly in towards the left-hand section. So the loop and the long straight section that goes out to the left of your screens. And essentially on there, as we go over to that sort of left-hand side, it's flat. There's a couple of rises. But after doing that P shape for the 5 laps, it's then dropping down, and that is going to be really critical. Depends on what power-ups you have. We saw yesterday on the DCG those being used. Won't give any spoilers away, but if you haven't watched it, it was a cracker of a finish. Make sure you watch it, but power-ups are going to be key, aren't they, Emma?
Oh, they are. Last time we were on this course, last winter, Matt, there were no power-ups on the Donny Chaingang. And the attack, if I remember rightly, you can just see on that beautifully. After the downhill, there's a slight bump before you hit Libby Hill, and the attacks went on that slight bump, but no power-ups. And I think the power-ups could potentially play a really big part today, because as you go round the fan flats, there are 6 opportunities, I think, off the top of my head, to get a power-up. You'll get a power-up each lap as you go through the sprint on the fan flats. Then as you drop through sprint 2 on lap 5, you'll get another power-up. So it really will depend on what power-up people get and how they use them once the go, go, go is gone. I think that's going to be really interesting tonight.
And key ones you're going to be looking for. Anvil for that downhill descent. Massive, massive power down there. Or the steamroller, because we're on a cobbled climb finish.
Yeah, or a feather. A feather is just as good as a steamroller, though the steamroller does last longer.
Yeah, definitely, and it's long enough, I think, that you probably would need it pretty much engaging at the start of the climb to run to the finish. But the rider who's taking the helm tonight, our yellow beacon, got a great yellow beacon because there's somebody who's rather good on the cobbles, let's face it. It is the one and only Becky Story. Has, in fact, ridden her last ride in real life, her last race in real life for Cams Basso, but we're not allowed to say any more at the moment, but a rider who is, I think, destined for very, very big things. I was lucky enough to be on the microphone for the Lincoln Grand Prix, and she just was in a class of her own.
Yeah, so in Becky's story is indeed joining us this evening to be our yellow beacon, and thank you to Becky. Our yellow beacons have been superb, and no pressure, Becky. 2 out of 2 wins. Can you make it 3? No pressure whatsoever, because I think there are some really strong riders in there as well tonight who I think are going to be really in the mix and giving everybody a good time.
And we've got to remember, just as importantly as the yellow beacon on the front, is the red beacon on the back. And that beacon, well, it was going to be somebody else, but we thought, you know what? Let's play our ace card. The rider for whom the red beacon is a natural home. Somebody who can drive a bus, in fact, drive an Arctic, a police car, an ambulance in real life. Hopefully not going to be needed tonight. It is the one and only Miss Cookie, who is busy driving a cyclocross bike in these pictures, and a pint, oddly enough. Can you think of a better red beacon, to be brutally honest, on a course like this?
No, absolutely not. So Miss Cookie was due to be red beacon first run out earlier on at the beginning of October, and unfortunately came down and tested positive for COVID. She is no longer testing positive. She is back on her bike, and she is looking forward to red beacon duties tonight. So it's fabulous to have her with her this evening. As we all know, Miss Cookie loves a red bus, a lot of banter, a lot of chit chat, and the occasional G&T or beer as well.
Definitely. Well, let's see. I'm sure they're down on the grid at the moment. Let's take a dive across to our riders here. So we can see our riders just starting to assemble down on the grid at the moment. And with that view, you can see we've got the riders just starting to line up. The yellow beacon in there, our red beacon tucked on the back. Hopefully somewhere, looking like, can't see our red at the moment, just going to have it. Oh, she's here somewhere. May well be that we're just in too close to our riders. So the clock is counting down. We're going to just try and jump out a little bit at the moment. So Miss Cookie is busy going to be doing our red beacon duties on the back, and away go our riders. So the riders are out and rolling. Let's see who's going to take this on and who's going to be able to stay with that yellow beacon and do as they're told is kind of key.
Do as they're told. Yeah, it is quite interesting. I think we've got Izzy Torrey is just a little slow off the start line there, but I'm sure she will be into the back of that group quite quickly, which will be really good. As that start has stretched that group a little bit. But I'm sure very shortly they will all come together and actually be quite a nice blob on the road.
Indeed, I'm sure they will, and get themselves together. Our red beacon is Miss Cookie now. It's not showing us our red beacon graphic, which will make life a little bit interesting. So we'll show you what Miss Cookie looks like, and you'll see there is a remarkable similarity between Miss Cookie in real life as well as on the screens here. And as our riders come up to what is the main finish gantry on the standard UCI lap, our riders rolling in and through. Don't forget, of course, we have the late start as well, and I think quite a lot of people diving in pretty much lastminute.com there, interestingly, because it's absolutely rocketed up in the numbers.
It has, yeah, indeed. So a lot of late joiners there coming in and jumping in at the last minute. In fact, yeah, so we're seeing that, aren't we? We've got a big group on the road. Miss Cookie on that Tron bike on the back, rolling around at the back there, which is absolutely lovely. I think we might have one rider behind as well. I'm looking there at Newman, looks about 30 seconds back. So I think if Newman, if you have the broadcast on, the late join, if it does become a problem, drop out and drop back in, and then you will drop right into that group.
Yep, definitely. So Emma Newman, Emma, if you're listening, not this Emma, the other Emma, dive back out, dive back in, do a late join. It will get you straight back into the group. With that pace, you're going to be flying in to the group. And as you can just see, it's already just seen one or two people just been dropped down a little bit. I think that bus will form pretty early. Miss Cookie very experienced at riding this. Newman rolling the way on at the moment, and as you can see, that group is going to need to hold together pretty well. Interesting to see a real mix of jerseys in here as well. So you can see Sarah Louise Hawkins is in here, Foxy in here, Emma Dooley, Lindsay Clark in here, And you've got Sandra McKay, I've seen rolling in through this group. It's going to be, suspect it's Cindy Gagan. Always interesting to find out. It is indeed Cindy. Becky Porter-James in with us once again. Nicola Soden in here. And, of course, these riders continuing in. So here we go. Let's have a little bit of a look. I think the pace that Emma is going on and moving quite quickly. She could well get back into that group pretty quickly. I'm looking at that time gap. It's hovering around about 30 seconds from Cookie, which means about 45 from Newman at the moment. And I would suggest to Miss Cookie that she's pushing on up to Van der Sluis and Mad Mazza potentially. So Newman just needs to do a rejoin, do a late join. You should drop straight back into the event. You won't start at kilometre 0 then if you do that, and you'll magically be retransported into the front of the pack. So the riders just getting themselves sorted. Looks like that pack will just have a little hover over top. Emma, we've got a good group here. And Joe Munden in here. Joe was on the Innsbruck ring yesterday, so a bit of a glutton for punishment, it has to be said.
Second Donny Chaingang of the week for Joe, and after last week, her telling us that she hadn't ridden a bike very much in the last 6 months, she's obviously rediscovered her love of riding a bike and been on 2 Donny Chaingangs this week. The question is, Matt, will she make it 3 with tomorrow as well?
Oof. I know what 3 Donny Chaingangs are like, and we can only have to stand up here and talk about them, never mind ride them. That's some going, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, there's lots of riders in there, isn't it, at the moment? And I've seen a couple of, there you go, look at that, there's a couple of Aeonian jerseys in there. Cindy is in there, and I think Izzy Torrey is in there tonight as well.
Yeah, I think we've seen Izzy on the way through, got Cindy just in our shot at the moment. If we just take a little bit of a roll, I think it's going to be Izzy Torrey in there, who's just working away up and through on the bike there. And a real mix of riders, which is great to see. So, looks like Newman and Cookie pushing on here. So, Newman is going to get a toe off Cookie. Easy tiger, Miss Cookie. The flipping neck. She's giving it serious beans here. You've got to keep looking in your rear view mirror. Press the number 6 key, basically. If you start opening a gap, you know you've gone a bit too hard and you are dropping the rider behind, and that is not going to get you up there.
Yeah, and Newman just, Emma, should I say, it's very funny calling somebody Emma when your name is Emma. But Emma just needs to stick into that draft and take that toe from Miss Cookie.
So nothing that's going to be drop out and come back in again. So Miss Cookie now in pursuit of our next 2 riders, and that is going to be Van der Sluis and Mad Mazza, who are just making their way up here, just in with Mad Mazza. That is some serious leg pace. I suspect you've got double cadence going on there.
Well, I'm looking at it thinking that's some serious jersey and shoe combo, to be honest.
The Neokio kit, it is absolutely awesome, isn't it? The new Neokio Badge Hunters kit, and looks good from any angle, even if we do manage to drop ourselves underneath the road. And of course we've got just in front, this is going to be Van der Sluis, just in front, and that is going to be Ninka Van der Sluis. I've got to get my pronunciations right. Ninka, my apologies, Ninka, and Ninka Van der Sluis. Do you know something? I'm here. I'm stuck. For a change, I'm not on coffee. I'm actually on honey and ginger and lemon today. It says a lot about the state of my voice today and the state of my throat.
No, you've just been talking a lot, Matt. But it is great to see new names, though, Matt, and new riders joining the Women's Only Wednesday. So a great call out to all the new riders on the Chaingang. And look at that, Emma Newman has dropped out and she has dropped back in and she has landed in the middle of the blob. So absolutely fantastic, really good.
And if you think you can hold that pace that they're travelling at, it is a really good trick. That drop out, jump back in again on that pace. I think Cookie's going to be joining Ninka and Mazza. So going to be working her way up. Let's have a little look at that pursuit, Emma.
Look at that. So, and I know we joked and laughed about Miss Cookie being a great red beacon and telling good banter and drinking gin and tonics. But let's not forget she can ride a bike, and boy can she race a bike in some really serious wet and muddy and technical conditions as well.
Well, if it's wet, muddy and seriously slushy conditions in her pain cave, then there is a problem, because it was built by her husband. So there's going to be a major domestic fallout going on. And he's a proper builder, not like me, who just bangs things together. He actually does it for a living. So I suspect he's going to be in trouble if there's mud and slush and gunge and slipping and sliding going on. It should be a nice smooth ride for Miss Cookie as she makes her way up to our riders, who are coming into the turn actually.
Yep, they are indeed, and as Miss Cookie is about to make that catch onto Mad Mazza and riders there, they are 30 seconds now back off of that main blob, which have gone round the corner and are coming through that sprint line at the moment.
Yeah, and remember, it's all about making sure you stay with that yellow beacon. That is key for our riders at the moment. And anybody who rides regularly will know that once that trigger is pulled, it is absolutely scary stuff. So it is going to be very, very interesting. It's not a pain cave, it's a lady cave. That's not even a sentence, really. Everybody has pain caves because they all suffer in there. If you're not suffering, then you're not trying hard enough. Is that old school? It probably is.
Very much so.
Yeah, showing my age there.
So
Half a century.
These
get a free
three,
jab and everything.
these three are now together, which is absolutely brilliant. So fabulous catch there from Miss Cookie coming through to join those other two riders, and you're now about 26 seconds off Becky Porter-James.
So looks like Cookie's going to be just doing a bit of a toe up here. I suspect that's going to need to be a little bit more attentive. I think she's full of beans tonight. She's sort of rocketing along with one rider, then rocketing along with another. So at the moment, Ninka just going to be looking for some assistance, maybe a little bit further back there. I think it's all about here making sure we get as many people in together up on that front group ready. So whilst our riders are just regrouping here, I'm going to say big thank you to everybody who's joined in, who's jumping in on our WOW DCG. Tell everybody about it, get those riders in. It's really sportive. It's a great way to come and ride. And don't forget, of course, we have the Tuesday and Thursday Donny Chaingang. It's been amazing to see, Emma, so many people riding on a Tuesday, Thursday, who have started off riding on the Wednesdays.
It is, and actually it's great because, you know, it doesn't matter what day of the week suits you best. There is a ride on a Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday. And that's absolutely fantastic. And actually we're in at the moment with Tack-On, and another one of our late joiners tonight. So, you know, again, this is a fantastic ride. If 6 o'clock is quite a challenging time in terms of you thinking you need a warm up to race or something like that, actually the late join enables you to drop into the Donny Chaingang, whether that's a Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday. And the pace, because it's a ramped workout, it's fantastic because you get your warm up as part of the event as well.
So our riders on the way in and through. Looks like a few people having crazy dropouts. There was a update to the systems, and that happened on Tuesday. And that's actually produced a few people having issues on the way through. If in doubt, make sure you try and update or reinstall on whatever device you're using. So you've got to be a little bit careful, because what can happen is that you get your phone, for example, out with your companion app out of sync with the update on your main machine. In our case, it's a PC or an Apple, or which Apple TV, whichever you're using. And then you have interesting times. It generally does cause dropouts if you do that. So try and make sure that if you've got a mobile device, literally uninstall it and reinstall it on the mobile device. It's much quicker than trying to do it on your PC or similar, whether you're on a Windows, an iOS or an Android system. Deleting it on the phone and reinstalling it there is much, much quicker. Also hardwire everything together.
Yeah, I understand the update caused challenges for quite a number of people actually yesterday who were racing on the ZRL, and that they had the A and B category on one course and the C and D categories on the other course. And actually some of the early races had real problems with riders going the wrong way and categories being on the wrong courses, which all got sorted out. But indeed that update did cause some challenges for different people.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not what you need when you're planning on racing. But that's part of real life. I mean, I've seen riders go off course on road races before now. I benefited from it when the top 14 riders disappeared off. I was in 15th place. We went round the corner. They all went the wrong way. I went the right way. Ended up in the race winning break. I was last in the race-winning break, but I still ended up in the race-winning break quite simply because we didn't go off course. We knew where we were going. At least our fate was in our hands though, and not in the hands of some computer screen. The computer clearly said no.
I was like looking at the screen thinking Becky Story's off season at the moment because she's wondering whether there's a cafe stop coming up soon. What we need is Joe Jarvis because Joe Jarvis, one of the other Aeonian riders, and she has been a red beacon for us on the Wild ECG before, actually used to live on this course. So she used to live in Richmond and she used to live on this course, and she would have been able to tell Becky where the cafe stop was.
She lived on course. I'd be hoping to call round for a cup of coffee. Never mind going to a cafe. It'll be a bob in for a brew time, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I think it's worthwhile, Matt, we make a call out to all the new riders tonight because, like we said, there's some new names in there. But what's also really nice to see is we had some new riders last week who are back in this week. So I can see Helen Backhouse in there today, and she was one of our new riders last week. So welcome back, Helen.
Indeed, there we go. Just diving in with Helen here. So Helen in the blue, grey and a white camo kit there. Deep rims on the bike as well. Good move that, but not too aero a bike. Good combination on this course. It's mostly a fast, flat course without the climb, but that climb is pretty nasty at the very, very end. But remember, of course, we are on fan flats. We've got a slight riser. The rider's on that at the moment. 2% climb on this bit, Emma, and it's quite a nice place to kick off if you are going on the offensive.
Yes, it is really interesting, and I think this is going to, as this speeds up and this gets faster, and once the proverbial 6 letters have come out, it's going to get really interesting because, you know, this pack at the moment, and even we're currently in with the riders at the moment, they're around 2.5 watts per kilo at the moment. The pack is moving really fast together. You know, they're on a slight incline at 3%. They're moving just shy of 30 kph. You know, the pack is moving really quite swiftly. And it does this on this course. So these 5 laps of the fan flats, once the group gets moving and the draft is utilised, the pack can be moving really quickly. That makes it really interesting if Becky lets this go on the flat section, rather than waiting, you know, until you actually drop. Because will the group stay together as a pack? Will they just sit and wait? What tactics will people use, and how will people ride this? Will those riders who know that this Libby Hill climb it's a steep climb, but it's not very long. Anybody with a really good 2-minute power is going to put in a phenomenal effort at the end of this ride. So, you know, if other riders are more time trial type riders, it's going to be really interesting to see if they push this group or try and push on and try and split the group somewhat on these flat lands and pull that pace along at a faster pace for people to lose their legs a little.
Well, I think somebody was listening to you. We have just seen a message go up saying, shall we ramp things up to 3 watts per kilo in the leading group? We're in with the bus. The bus is formed, and Miss Cookie has, by the power of her magnetic personality, or maybe it's just because she's got gin and cake, has already started that bus rolling. So the bus is in action. The group riding along very quickly, actually, to be fair, and making the way in around this statue. Some great scenery here from the riders that come in and through. And as you can see, that message just saying, should we ramp things up a little bit? And that's when you start to see a few riders generally starting to fight with the pace. And I think we might find that Joe Takon has just been detached from that group. So Joe, one of our riders last week, doing a great ride last week, gone for the lightweight wheels this time. They're going to be in again, and great to see Joe in here. Another week, another ride, doing a great job.
Yeah, exactly. And as that pace lifts and ramps a little bit, we do start to see this. You know, riders come off that group, and the aim is to ride each week and just stay in a little bit longer and stay in a little bit longer. And it's about individual progression, and there being something for everybody on this ride. And I think that's absolutely key. As Becky lifts that to around 3 watts per kilo, that pace is going to pick up now. And that group is still quite a big group. There's 21 riders in that front group at the moment. So actually, whilst the front of that group may be doing 3 watts per kilo, the clever ones, the Millie Skinners, who was our red beacon last week, when Millie rides, take an eye and keep a watch on her, because she really does stick at the back of the group and utilise the draft beautifully until she really needs to put the power on the pedals for the last 20 minutes or so.
Indeed, and you can just see, I think the group just going through, I think we're just starting to see a few riders just starting to feel that pressure. There's a little bit of just, I think, the group's still together, but it's not at a pace where people are pushing really hard on the front. It's usually a case when we start to see riders detach, but we also see riders start to just maybe fracture a little bit of the knees back. I don't think it's at that twitchy stage yet.
No, I agree with you, and it is one, you still need to be paying attention, in that group. You take your eye off the ball, you take a drink, you slip, you drop your water bottle, you go, what have I done? And you find you're 1 second off the back of that group, and we know how challenging it can be. That pack at the moment is moving at 38, 39 kph. You just need to be really mindful, because 1 second, 2 seconds, and boy is it difficult to get back on that group. It's interesting now though, as we see those power-ups go in, like I say, a lot of power-ups on this course tonight, so it's going to be really interesting, I think, in the latter stages of today's event to see how they're used.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's one of those real interesting things that we've added in, and it works. It changes the dynamic having those power-ups. It changes how it rides, but it is a bit of a schizophrenic ride in some ways, because you build up and you build up, but you're aiming to stay as a group as long as you can, building it faster and faster and working together. But then it is every rider for themselves, and then it is all about getting the win and getting over that finishing line. So let's see who's going to have the strength to do it. Some great wisdom coming out from Becky here tonight on the Donny Chaingang and the WOW DCG. As she controls that front group, we can just see, I think, Mad Mazza, Miss Cookie and Nika van der Swiss just losing a little bit of ground there on the way through. I think could well get back in again, but looks like Ninka with a bit of an issue on the way through. I'm not sure whether it's not a tech issue. It's often the case when people start getting dropped out. Yeah,
particularly when they're riding with a group and then all of a sudden they're not.
Yep.
More, as you say, Matt, sometimes if Zwift is a little bit glitchy, it does cause problems like that.
And one of the things that can cause you to have that drop is actually not being connected to your Wi-Fi. Even though you think you are and the game is playing, the way it runs is it actually runs into a limp mode, a bit like your car will get you home. What the game does is it moves into protection mode, and what it actually will do is if you start to lose contact with the service through your Wi-Fi, maybe you've got something that like a Bluetooth speaker interrupting your connections, what will happen is that it actually will drop the riders, then it will drop the time gaps, then it will just drop them out completely. You'll end up riding on your own, and then eventually it will drop you completely out of the game. But on the way through there, you can find little drops, and those drops can be only a fraction of a second, but it can take you out of contention. And the best way to avoid it is to actually put, if you're connected, for example, by Bluetooth or by AMP+, is actually to put the sensor onto a long cable connector, pin it into your computer with that, rather than just plugging it straight into the USB port side, and put that sensor as close to your turbo train as you can get it, and that will definitely improve things. So our riders on the way through. This group are riding well. The pace has indeed picked up at the moment, so our riders are absolutely motoring, and certainly it looks to me like the pack are rocketing around. We have currently got, I'm just going to try and jump in, 11.9k on the road at the moment. Time of what is 20 minutes, just over 20 minutes on the clock at the minute, and the gang riding well, Emma.
Yeah, so around just over 20 kilometres till the finish. So yeah, the gang is riding well. They are moving at a good pace. We're currently in with the riders in this pack riding around, I would say around 3. They are just sub 3 and just over 3 in this pack, and Becky puts a call out, is everybody feeling okay? And it's looking as though this group are riding really comfortably, Matt.
They are, and just with focusing on Susie Bell at the moment. Susie riding on that Canyon, that Raffles short certain kit, and 144 beats a minute, 77 revs per minute, no real big fluctuations. Nicely ticking along, 165, 70 watts. Looks good at the moment. So could just see, still with Foxy at the moment, so in with Lisa, and just going to take a little bit of a look. Love the top. Donuts. Oh, I miss donuts so much. It's scary. Jam donuts, ice donuts, strawberry ice donuts, donuts with sprinkles.
Okay, let's move you on, shall we? So, Emma, been great to have you with us this evening, and good to see you successfully use that dropout and come back in on that late join. So fabulous to see that working. Enjoy the rest of your evening as you warm down and take it easy off the bike.
Yeah, and don't forget, if you're going to have a drop back, there is always cake at the back with Miss Cookie. She'll always welcome you with open arms. All our red beakers doing an amazing job. And I got to say thank you to everybody on all of the Donny Chaingangs who take on that role of looking after everybody else. And that's the whole point of the Chaingang, is that we look after everybody. We mutually look after each other, because basically we're all cyclists. We all jump on bikes. It doesn't matter whether you ride gravel, cross, BMX, mountain bike, artistic cycling, cycle ball, urban, BMX flatlines, BMX, you name it. It's all riding a bike, and it's all about getting out and just going out and enjoying it. And if you're not enjoying it, get off the bike and go eat cake. Why not?
Well, I would personally say ride your bike, enjoy it, stop, eat cake, then get back on your bike and ride it some more.
Well,
which, you know, is always a call for a fabulous Sunday sometimes too in the Peak District round here. So if that's your plan for the weekend, then I hope you thoroughly enjoy it.
Yep, definitely. So I think Becky Story might be volunteering for being our red beacon very shortly with that Coats Like Cake at the back. That's for sure, because I know Becky, it was great. The whole team were around at the Lincoln Grand Prix at the end of it, and they were all at the back chatting away. Absolutely. Honestly, it was a scream at the back, and we know that they really have worked well as a team and looked after each other. And I mean, the team Camps Basso, what a season they've had. And it was something we explored actually a little bit on the Crosscast that's just come out. We were talking on there, Neil, myself, and great guest Amy Perryman, one of the young, not as young as she used to be, no longer in the junior ranks anymore, moving up into the senior ranks, but a rider who absolutely loves riding a bike. But we were talking about teams, and it takes some time for them to gel, to get together, and then really get into that spot where everybody can work. So really, really interesting to see Camps Basso. I mean, you know, Sammy Stewart, Becky Story, but great returning riders, even riders who've had a bit of an off season because of maybe something like COVID, returning people like Sophie Thackeray coming back, and she's absolutely flying again, as you would expect.
I know, but could you imagine being on that team bus or in a van with the Camps Basso team? You've got Sammy Stewart, Becky Story, Sophie Thackeray. My goodness me, that has got to be one lively bus before and after a race.
Yeah, I think the soundproofing in the studio would not be sufficient, to be fair. You'd probably hear them coming down the side of the street.
I've been in a car with Sophie Thackeray all the way from Leeds to Graz in Austria. Yes.
It's probably not where it came back ding then.
But I'm loving the fact that there's a conversation going on around what is your best gin at the moment. And the fruit ones seem to be winning. There's some strawberries going on here and some grapefruit. I quite like the idea of grapefruit gin. I've not had grapefruit gin. I'm rather partial to sort of a, I've never really been a fan of the fruity ones. Much prefer sort of a spicy. I'm trying to think what the one I really like is, but it's quite peppery as well.
I hate gin.
I know you don't like
I'll
it,
add this, but then again, I say that about lots of things and don't really drink it, but that's mostly because I've drunk far too much of things. But gin is definitely not one of those things that I've OD'd on at any point in my time.
Well, the thoughts of gin are really keeping this peloton moving, because this group is moving really well and really fast around this course. You know, we are 15 kilometres into this now, so we are nearly halfway. As this group are moving really comfortably, Matt, 40 kph at the moment this group are moving around here at, very, very comfortably. And I'm loving the fact that June is the motivation.
Well, yeah, I know. It's not a AA meeting, you know. It's just not. So, our riders on the way round here on the DCG. On the WOW DCG, the Women Only Wednesdays Donny Chaingang. Whilst our riders and our helicopters just overhead, a quick reminder, don't forget you can catch up all over the place with myself and Emma. We've got lots of coverage of lots of different parts of the sport on the way through. It was privileged to be on the Gravel World Championships, UCI Gravel World Championships, earlier on this month. Been absolutely amazing to see that in action. We've got a lot of work been going on into the Paralympic Track Championships with the team there, just helping them out a little bit on the way through. Also, of course, we've got coming up lots of different disciplines, but Crosscast is out. Make sure you give it a listen. It was a lot of fun to record. It was great to be back there. Don't forget, of course, Emma and myself also commentating on cycling esports on a weekend. Make sure you catch up with us on social media for that. Emma, how can people follow us on social media?
Yeah, so you can get hold of me on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook at Viking Emma, or follow us at Full Speed Events, Matt, because both you and I pick up that feed.
Well, mostly you.
I did pause there as you're thinking, because I was saying it. I was thinking, well, actually, I pick it up more than you. But you can get us hold of us at Biking Emma or Full Speed Events. Either of those two feeds through social media. Obviously, if you're interested in following the Donny Chaingang, the Donny Chaingang itself is on Facebook and Instagram, and you can follow the Donny Chaingang specifically there for everything to do with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, all through the season, and the sponsors and the giveaways and everything that goes on around the Donny Chaingang itself.
Definitely, yeah, and don't forget to give Fonzie Dan and Russ a follow us on the way through as well. And of course, all of the people who make the riding and the racing happen. That's really, really important. And you can see them across the bottom of your screen there. You can see 1080, the best shades in the business. Really, really key. And to get hold of the right set of shades for the shape of your face and what you want them to do. So amazing knowledge from Ian Taylor and the gang at 1080. It's actually a tourist destination in Norwich these days. Continental, of course, making sure that everybody's tyres are rolling and no punctures. Got Vela Skin to ensure you're sitting comfortably and as shaved as smoothly as my chin is, because at the moment I am very, yeah, it sounds like a bit of gravel or sandpaper, unfortunately. Sadly, I need to get that Vela Skin into gear. Then, of course, don't forget, we've got Halo, who are our supporters all the way through October on the DCG gang. We've got a great giveaway coming up next week, and that's going to be £200 to spend on the website, and a full set of kit, jersey and shorts as well.
Wow.
Going out to the members of the DCG gang, the Donny Chaingang Supporters Club. You can't enter it, Emma. So that's going to be going out. The draw goes out to all the members of the DCG gang who keep the show on the road. Nonna's, of course, very popular. I think Ken Kerrigan was down there earlier on this week. Tracy Seeley was in there at the weekend. It's the go-to place, let's face it, in Sheffield for cyclists. Of course, Gritty, well, they're going to be around in November, but already 20% off Gritty, as well as Vela Skin and off Halo. If you go on there, and 20% of course from OTE as a member of the DCG gang. So whether you want to get sitting comfortably refueled, OTE salted caramel, anytime protein bar, do it. It is the best thing ever. And get sitting comfortably, spin on the best wheels, gripping with the best tyres, eating the best food afterwards, and of course wearing the best shirt. Don't forget, become a member and get those discounts.
So you've just said I can't become a member, but if I am one of the riders who could become a member and they're not, and they're hearing about these giveaways and the discounts that the members of the Supporters Club get, Matt, how do they join?
It's really, really easy. At the same place that you can register for the Chaingang, you can join. It is really easy to join from the Donny Chaingang website. That's www.donnychaingang.com. And from there, you'll see there is a DCG gang membership. Now, what we do is we reward people who donate for 1 month or for the rest of the season, and that price for the rest of the season obviously diminishes as we go through the season, but it's at £25 for the month. That money basically goes towards offsetting the costs from hosting, software, hardware, kit, caboodle. Russ and I have stood those for a long, long time. But then the member stepped in when we started to struggle with that and said, "Do you know what, we need to help you." So to say thank you, because Russ and I are both true Yorkshire lads and we know you don't get out for now, we'd like to say thank you, and we've used our contacts to be able to get those great discounts, and you get the links to how to join each ride direct to your inbox and details, all sorts. So it is all about making sure you help the gang, and of course you get that free, just free, by donating. Even if it's just a little donation, you get that warm glow for free that says, "I helped make Donny Chaingang happen," and we've supported so many riders over the years. It is really good to know that people like to help us as well on the way through. Now back to the ride at the moment. Just interesting to see that Newman and Tackon have gone back in together. Becky's Story having a little chat about locations on the way there, and I'm sure I saw one or two locations that could give a few people an interesting shout. So Heerenveen being one. Heerenveen, that is going to be Ninka van der Sluis. Manchester for Miss Cookie. Oregon Smoky as well. Isle of Man for Becky. Just having a little think where else we've got. In fact, I know where most of the riders are because they all take the register, but no, we've got people all over the place. So let's see how our riders get on. The K's ticking away. 18k on the clock now, and 30 minutes, well, just over 30 minutes covered for our riders.
Yeah. And I have to say, Matt, I think that is one of the absolute joys of platforms like Zwift and other esports platforms, is that you can ride with people all over the world from your home. It's absolutely fantastic. I've done team time trials with Ionian with riders from the UK, but the Netherlands, the USA, and France, all 6 of us on the course together, through and off in a team time trial. We're all on Discord chatting to each other, yet we're located all over the world. And I absolutely love that about esports and riding on these platforms.
Yep, definitely, and I think it's the case. You can see the riders at the moment steadily making their way down. The check seems to have died down a little bit. I think that's because the pace keeps on popping upwards more than anything else.
I think it's because the K's keep ticking upwards and they're looking at the clock thinking it's 20 kilometres travelled now. The finish line is at 33.2 kilometres. When is Becky going to call it? And I think they're keeping their eyes peeled for what Becky is going to put on the screen at some point so they don't miss it. And that's why it's gone a little quiet.
Indeed. Now Emma Newman just easing off pressure. I think Miss Cookie Mazza and Ninka van der Sluis are going to be there very shortly. Remember, of course, Joe Tackard just having a little bit of a push on at the moment. Fresh fig jam from their tree. Don't be saying things about fig jam, otherwise then we'll be trying to tap you up for recipes on the way through. So Joe just continues push on. The group is held at the moment. Back of the group being held by Foxy. I think I've just seen Sandra McKay. Either her legs have just fallen off or the dropout's gone. Let's see how she's going. Foxy's in here. Foxy's seen, okay, see, I had flu jab, seems okay. Yeah, tell me about it. I had mine yesterday, my booster yesterday. Oh my goodness. It was great until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I decided that somebody beat me up with a sledgehammer. And then this morning it was great. Maybe it was somebody beating me with a sledgehammer in the night instead.
No fig jam for us. No, Miss Cookie. I've got a recipe for fig chutney that I really like making. So no fig jam for us. We'll do fig chutney instead for Christmas.
Well, I just think we're getting a little bit of a teaser coming from our yellow beacon here. We're at 20.9k, 35 minutes on, nearly 36 minutes on the clock here. We're just in with Susie Bell. Another go, go, go has gone. It's been called by Becky Story.
Oh,
here we go. Look at the power.
So we are in and the go, go, go has gone and the power has gone down. We've got 7 watts per kilo coming out of the front of this group at the moment as they're trying to split this pack of around 20 riders on these flatlands.
Well, I think they're doing some damage pretty quickly here. Now, everybody kicks when the go, go, go goes, but then it has a habit, if you're not careful, to settle down. Be nice to each other. You say go, 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 Becky. They know who's going to play nice. I wouldn't play nice once that's happened. Now it's all about getting to the finish line as fast as possible. Maybe if I played nice, people give me a lift on the way,
No.
give me a bit of a backy.
Well, Matt, and it's not long to the finish line, you know, because we've got 21.5 kilometres covered. So they are going to be looking at around 12k to go. And the initial kick here has stopped, and they've sat back up at around 3-4 watts per kilo. There's a couple of riders that have been pulled off the back of that group, but just a couple. So 2 riders, 3 riders maybe split from that group now. After that go initial kick, but I'm wondering now whether they're going to come back on because that group seems to have sat up a little bit, and unless they go again and keep that pace pushing, these riders are going to work their way back on whilst this is still flat.
Well, definitely we've got 2 really good riders here as well. We've got Karen in here and I think we've got Nate in here as well. So Chantal, Nate in here just with Karen, these 2 riders. Tucked in together, and if they work together, they are going to pick up bodies. Even if they don't come back to that group, they will catch people. I think Susie Bell going to be the rider who potentially is going to be their next potential collaborator if they can pull back Susie. But Susie at 4 watts per kilo here, maybe just getting distanced by that acceleration, but has got some serious power at the moment.
Yeah, and we've seen people time trial themselves back onto these groups, Matt, after that initial kick. You know, I'm looking at some of the power outputs of that group in front, and it's looking really steady at the moment after that initial kick. So Susie and the others can keep pushing and keep trying, and you know that's the name of the game, isn't it? Once that go has gone, if you're not with that front group, you find a group that you are riding with and you push on and you try and catch the next group in front.
And that's it, the more you work together, find a group, get yourselves in towards the finish. You can always fight it out in those final slopes. We see people literally fighting it out in the last 2-3 pedal strokes. That happens fairly frequently on the Donny Chaingang. So our riders up and away, or the go being given by the one and only Becky Story, a rider who now is back home in the Isle of Man, a rider who regularly has taken it to the best in the domestic and the international scene. And interestingly, just seeing one of your teammates here on the front of the group, just winding it up a little bit here. That looks to me like that's going to be Cindy Gagan.
No, I think that's Izzy Torrey who stuck her nose out of the wind there and has actually just pushed on a little bit, and she's having none of this sitting and resting. She's seen it. There's 10k to go, and I think she really wants to push on now. The question is, will anybody push on with her?
Well, at the moment, she's just being left out there to dangle and do all that work. Remember, of course, when you're on your own, you are pushing against the wind solo. If you're just watching this for the first time, thinking, well, you can't get draft when you're on a esports platform. Oh, believe me, you do. The difference is huge. We all know what it's like. Put your hand out the car window, it's getting blown backwards at 20 miles an hour. Hide it behind the wing mirror, all of a sudden there's no breeze. It's exactly the same if you've got a rider to sit behind. Torrey has nobody to sit behind. She's on her own at the moment.
But she's tapping out at tempo, Matt, and she's gone from 1 second up to 2 seconds up. She's tapping out a tempo that's obviously comfortable for her, and I think we're going to see some decisions from the pack, and I think a couple of riders are going to try and join her now.
Well, look at this. Torrey goes through in the lead. Now Munden is coming across the gap here. So Joe Munden on day 2 of 2 in the Big Brother house is making her way on to the back of that group. They're going to come around the turn here. Question will be who is going to go after them. 2 very strong riders. I mean, Izzy Torrey and Joe Munden down the road, and at the moment that pack is having a little bit of a look.
Oh, and there's another kick coming from behind, Matt. I've just seen an 8 watts per kilo come through as another rider sticks a power up in and tries to make that group a group of 3 now.
Well, that would be a really tough group. That's going to be Wingrove who's going to go through at the moment. So it's Emma Wingrove who's working well. She's gone off the front. She's going to go over the top. And at the moment, that gap is coming. Now, all 3 riders getting a personal best. In fact, look at that. It's absolutely snowing confetti down on our riders a little bit further back. That's quite simply because they're all getting PBs. Just taking a look, nobody in this group after that initial splintering of the go has been detached, which means that it's going to be Belle, Karen. It's going to be the next one is going to be Chantel, and then I think Joe Tackon We've got Emma as well as the rest of that Red Beacon group behind. But look at this. We're now seeing a splintering because Becky Story is pushed on the front, and that group has formed. There's a gap behind, and look at the damage that's being done here. People wanted to be in this group, and now the split has happened, and it's about getting across before it is too late. We're seeing Elliot push across in that fear. Team behind her, Emma Dooley, is not making the contact, so her teammate has gone. She tried to go with her to get across to the front group. It's not happened at the moment, and it looks to me she's going to make it. So look at that, there we go. Elliot joins this group. Dooley, her teammate, is going to get swallowed up by that chasing pack, and that's going to be a chasing group, I think, of about 5, if not 6. It's 5 riders
and
behind.
There's some really strong riders in that chasing group, Matt, and do you know what? They need to not drop their heads, they need to keep their heads up, and they need to keep their eyes on the road, and they need to work together, because at the moment they can still do something, and they can still potentially pull that group back if they sit up.
So advantage in numbers in the front group just from the rear group, but we have still plenty of time to pull that back. Plus, of course, we've got that descent, big descent, 1 anvil on that descent would bridge from the group 2 to group 1. That is how good it is if you get one of those. Neil Mansfield was telling me he was on a taper down ride prior to the 3 peaks, and he was freewheeling off the top box hill on Swift, putting the anvil. He got his fastest time ever just freewheeling down because of that anvil.
Well, and that power-up helped Elliot cross that gap, and I doubt she would have made that if that power-up hadn't been there.
Well, here we go, just on this little rundown. It starts dropping here into towards that turn, and it's going to be very interesting to see if that group can come back. It's gone out, though, Emma. 10 seconds down the gap, and I think they're going to be struggling to get that back if they're not careful, but they can mop up people. Remember, there are going to be riders in that front group. If their legs go pop, they're going to come backwards very, very quickly. They'll get dropped faster than Led Zeppelin, and then you're going to be able to come past them and make some places.
Yeah, let's not forget that, because they're both moving really quick, both of these groups now, and are pretty much kicking out the same pace. But that draft is strong, and those groups are moving really fast, around 40 kph on this course.
Well, the draft is strong with this one on the front. It is Foxy, who's absolutely bigging along here, doing another good ride here. Nicola Soden in it. Now, Nicola, great rider. Had the pleasure watching a ride on the road, as well as seeing her come on to a race like the Chaingang and onto Swift. But could be a rider who could be in with a chance of ripping this away. Remember, of course, our yellow beacon, Becky Story, has in theory finished her current road season, just having a nice chilled out time. This is Donny Chaingang. I know this is a proven winner. That's a combination that is not going to end in taking it easy.
No, so we've got 9 riders in this front group, Matt, and 6 riders in the chase group behind. And that effort through that sprint section on this lap is what's done that and what's actually split this group up. So 15 riders made that turn into that sprint, and then the attacks that we saw that Izzy Story started just before that turn has split this group into one group of 9 and one group of 6.
Well, Becky Story saying anybody brave enough to go along. I think that's a big ask on this descent, but you don't know. Remember, there are also things like ghosts available, which can be used at a critical moment. You can, of course, have the anvil in there. The steamroller will work on the climb. And as you said, Emma, there's still the opportunity of picking up some more, because we're coming into our next sprint line. So this is a chance, if you're not happy with what you've got, to pick up something different.
Well, I'm trying to think of the last time I saw a rider on the WOW DCG go for a long effort. And the one that comes to mind is Innsbruck Ring, when Alison Kinlock was attacking up the leg snapper climb on the final lap, and Millie Skinner ignited a power up about 10 metres off the top of the climb, and she went up and over the climb first. And I think she got a 5-minute PB that day, because she time trialled the last 5 minutes into the finish line.
Yeah, and I think that is, it does show you just how good our yellow beacons are as well, doesn't it? I mean, Millie was on absolutely flying form on last Wednesday, and I think that is going to be the case again here. Let's see, Becky Story is on 5k till cake. Still got the energy to type. This group if we take a little bit of a look from above here, they're across the road, and that is a sign that they are not pushing on. It does give hope to the riders behind, but let's see.
It does indeed. But those riders behind, I looked at that and I think that's about 13, 14 seconds now between these two groups on the road. And I think, how long have we got? We've got just over 5 kilometres. So, yeah, I'm not sure anybody is going for a long one, Becky. I think they're going to be with you until you all hit that climb, unless somebody kicks early.
Well, let's see. We're now coming in to our descent. You can see that we've got this long run down here. Remember, we'll keep on going, ploughing straight on down, and then we'll be taking those turns. Lisa Smith in. Now we're seeing the anvils in action. Look at the gap that's being ripped out here. Now, if Wingrove powers as well as uses the anvil, she's going to make everybody else have a really, really tough time. And that is where it's really useful. If you can power as well as use the anvil, you will rock it away, and the rest of the group is going to have serious problems in getting you back. And you can see Wingrove now 5 seconds, I think, at peak there from the group behind.
Yep, absolutely. So 5 seconds from using that power up on the descent, and Wingrove now needs to really kick to make the most of that, or else that group is going to come back. So push on is what's required, or else that group is going to move back in.
Well, there is the other side of the coin. If you're having a hard time, you maybe want a bit of a breather, you got an anvil, you put it in and get that breather, and then do that recovery, jump back in the group, revitalised, and ready to go again.
No, you're not wrong, Matt, and we can use our power-ups in very many different ways, but I noticed there that there was a little bit of kick on the pedals there just to make sure she didn't go out the back as that group snowballed over the top.
Oh, really interesting to see. We're just in with Jessica Upton at the moment. And Jessica, we always talk about the riders on the front, but it's the riders who are quiet on a race like this, on a ride like this, where you're coming into that finish towards the end with a kicker. It's about who's saved energy for that climb, because it is going to be brutal up that climb. Who's got energy, who has recovered, whose heart rate's maybe a little bit more comfortable with a little bit more room to accelerate up. Look at these heart rates, and just working our way through here, they are all very similar. Those people who we can actually see all sitting a long way up. There's nobody rolling around with a Russ Downing kind of 101 doing 40k an hour, that's for sure.
Yeah, but this is a really interesting section now, because we're on this flat section, but there is a small, I wanted to call it a hill, but it's a little bit more like a lump in the road. But it's going to be interesting to see if this group just motor as a pack of 9 into the bottom of the main climb, or whether someone has a go again.
Well, here we are. This is that riser here. This is a nice attack point. It's a time you can put pressure on, but I think there's a lot of nerves in this group. Nobody wanting to take this on at crazy wattage at the front. Just seeing a little bit of a push there by Upton, who just goes on to the front of the group up that rise. Is that a sign that she's got some serious climbing form? Because that was a little bit of a rise, and Upton just eased off the front without putting too much effort in.
But I'm looking at Becky, and Becky's story is just monitoring what's going on the front. She just pushed a little bit harder on the pedals, and she put at 4.5, 5 watts per kilo to make sure the group stayed together. So fantastic work from the yellow beacon there, ensuring this group of 9 stays as a group of 9 at the moment.
Well, not long before we come into our climb, you can just see the finish on our map, top right-hand side, back up those hairpin turns. So we're using our wildlife cam at the moment in the woods to keep a track of the riders. The watts per kilo is going up, the power is coming up. This is about giving it everything you've got as you come in to the line here. And at the moment, this group, Emma, still together. Would you want to put money on anybody in particular at this stage? I'm not sure I would.
No, but you can imagine they're all looking at each other, even virtually, as to who's going to go first and who's going to just sit in and hold the pace and keep it quiet until they get to that climb, hoping that nobody else goes first.
Well, going to be really, really interesting to see how they go up here. Remember, we have the warm down, the finish of the ride, always at a fixed point on the Donny Chaingang. We have a run down to the blue banner. That is to give us a warm down. It also allows us, of course, to track our riders a little bit further each time, just as they warm down as they come through Not sure whether 1.8k is going to be enough for them to warm down today, given how explosive we expect this to be. Who's going to put the kick in? Oh, I've just seen a little bit of a nudge there coming from Becky Story. But here we go. That wind-up is coming. Emma, we've not got far to go. We're only climbing to the top of the hill, just in the distance there behind us.
No, we have 1k to go. So with 1k to go, Story is just sitting on the front, but she's not pushing on too hard. She's tapping along, and a couple of riders are coming up, and Tori is one of those. And we saw that action from Tori earlier. So they are monitoring the front of this group, Matt, but nobody is pushing on really hard. They're just trying to keep the pace of the group high at the moment.
So timing is everything. 640 metres to go now to the top of the slope. And all of a sudden, Tori winds it up at 7 watts per kilo. Onto her heels goes Becky Story. Now, Story's there holding the pace at the moment. Who's going to have this? We've seen some big power coming out behind. Oh, and look at that. That's a ghost gone in, but it don't work when you've got a chevron stuck over your head. They know exactly where she is. Look, there she comes back. The ghost don't work when you got a chevron. Russ discovered this to his horror the other day. And you know what? It's given a little bit of a gap, because look at this. Wingrove was very attentive to that, but she's got to stay on the heels here of Becky Story. Now, can Emma Wingrove get back in? Get onto the heels of Story. Story, who knows how to ride the cobbles. She was on Michaelgate in Lincoln, powering her way up, but it looks to me like Becky Story has a gap, and this could well be 3 from 3 for our yellow beacons.
And as I head round these corners on this climb, Matt, they go round these right-hand corners on these cobbles, and this climb just kicks. As you can see the numbers in the corner, we top 19% now on that corner, as Story shows us how it's done as she crosses that line.
So first place goes to Becky Story. It's going to be a fantastic second place to Emma Wingrove. Jessica Upton is going to come through. I think she's got the gap. She has. So it's going to be Jessica Upton who's going to take third place. I think Lisa Jane Light is going to be here. It's going to be Foxy on her way to the line. She's going to be in fourth position. Great riding by Foxy there. Then it's going to be the Aeonian rider. It's going to be Izzy Torrey who's going to come across in fifth place. Then Lisa Smith. I tell you what, she's absolutely flying. Oh, just holds off Nicola Sutton there as well. So it was very quick there as they went through. Behind then, next rider is going to be Lisa Elliott from the Fair Squad. Great riding by them, and Elliott managed to stay in with that group and still ahead of a teammate, in fact, by 17 seconds.
Yeah, and that was the power-up that she utilised very tactically to chase from that group of 6 that are our second group on the road, to catch that group of 8 and make it a group of 9. Fantastically well timed and great tactics from her.
Well, the victory going to Becky. Just seen another little ghoster going on there. Now Dooley's going to lead our next group home. I think she's on this final pull up to the line. So it's going to be Emma Dooley behind, though. This has been really close, because you're going to see it's going to be Cindy Gagan who's going to get it. Then it's going to be Lindsay Clark, followed by Smith. Then Hawkins, followed by Backhouse, in that order over the line. So Helen Backhouse going through with the riders just in front. That's Mel Smith, Lindsay Clark in that group as well. They go in over the top of that climb with Sarah Louise Hawkins and Cindy Gagan. Great riding. We're going to drop a bit further down the hillside here. Another good ride here. Really impressive by Susie Bell. I think she's got a gap that should see her in and through pretty safely.
Yeah, definitely, as she comes up round that corner on these cobbles, tapping away really nicely there with a cadence of around 85 revs per minute as she's heading towards the top of that climb.
So here we go. The corner comes, this right hand turn. It is really brutal. I saw a 21% go on there. The inside of the bend is horrible. There's a nasty little step in there, and you can see it just keeps on kicking. But great running here by Susie Bell, who's going to come in through. Great shot that from our camera of the monument at the top. Of course, with the squirrel on top, as you'd expect, gets everywhere. even on Nelson's column, Squirrel's column in London, should we say. So, Bell on the way in here on the WOW DCG on the Women Only Wednesdays. Donny, Chaingang. Great riding by Becky Story to bring everybody in. And I think she's probably about to hit the gin and cake as we see Susie Bell go in and through the line. Behind, I think it is going to be Karen on her way in. Here's the Capo Donna rider, makes her way around that turn and looking good as she makes her way in to the finishing line here on the Donny Chaingang.
And I have visions right now of our yellow beacon sat with next to her on the turbo trainer, coffee and walnut cake and a gin and tonic. But we are looking actually and watching the rest of our riders come in as we are still on this cobbled climb.
It is a tough cut part of the course as you do one hairpin, then you do this almost 90-degree turn around the right-hand turn to line up for the finish. Karen's going to come in and through here. I must say it's a cracking course. I do like this course. It's pretty quick, it's pretty fast. Just a one big climb at the end. Karen coming through, great running by Karen, who comes through in 16th position. We're going to drop back here for Chantal now. I have to say, I'd really love to see a picture. If you are going to beacon for us at any point, we always love to see, and it's great banter on the Facebook pages, to see our beacons at the end. Now, I know the Aeonians, they're really quite keen. They all have a sweat feet wall that goes on social media, them all sweating cobs at the end. What I think we should see is our riders celebrating their job as yellow beacon. So I want to see a picture of Becky sat on the turbo with a Victoria sponge in one hand and a G&T in the other, or whatever poison tickles you fancy if you're going to be one of our beacons. Sounds like a great plan. Not sure everybody's going to be able to organise that, but you never know. So in now with Chantal Nate, who is on her way up the Belgian rider, now taking the cobbles very shortly. Here we go, hits that cobbled section. Behind we're going to have Joe Tackon, who's on running in towards the factory down by the river, down by the docks. And then it's going to be Miss Cookie and Mad Mazza, who are making their way in towards the climb. But the rider who is up on to that final section of climbs is Chantal. Now, whilst our riders make their way up, quick reminder, please, if you can, join the DCG gang. Get all those links direct to your inbox. Make sure you go on and support the gang if you can afford to do so. But please don't put yourselves in financial trouble. We set the chain gang up a long time ago because when COVID hit and people were locked down, we wanted something for people to look forward to. We wanted to keep the group together and keep people talking and socialising and having fun. And we've always said there will never be an option where you can't just get a come on and just get a free ride if you want to do so. The gang have really supported us on that. They've looked after people who maybe have lost a job, maybe who are young riders. They've got kit for people, and that is that community spirit. They set up their own in real life meetups. They bump into each other at all sorts of random places, sometimes even to do with the bike. And it's really important, guys, that you stay connected, talk to each other and look after each other, and the Facebook page is a key place for that. So please remember, jump on that Facebook page, jump onto the group, shout if you need a hand. The guys, there's so much advice now. Great riding. Now I think no help needed for Chantal. So Chantal and Nate on the way up over the top. You can see how much height we've gained, because if we look down you can see the river down below Chantal at the moment. Great riding by Chantal. Time for that warm down.
Yeah, and let's not forget there's 1.8 kilometres from the top of that climb to the end of the event Blue Banner. So a little bit of a leg spin down the other side of the climb and finish at that Blue Banner.
So our next rider on the climb is going to be Joe, Tackon Joe on the climb. Now got a nice set of lightweight wheels, and that's one of the lightest frames. There was a period, I have to admit, where I geeked out over every single bike and stat. Emma probably remembers it very well, sadly. Every single bike, bit of kit, bit of equipment, what made you go quick where on what part of the course. And this has always been one of those classic frames to go up a hill on, because it's a great climbing frame to ride up super smooth and super quick. So great to see our riders on there and using some really classy stuff, some quality kit to go up and tuning the bikes up for the ride. Miss Cookie on the Tron, and that's because she hadn't spent far too much time on Zwift, and going through. I'm only jealous because I haven't got mine. I made that rookie error of riding like most of the levels before I even realised I hadn't clicked the button to go do the Everesting. That's a long word for a long week. Everesting. I've said it plenty of times. I should know that. So, our riders on the way through on to the climb. We've got Mad Mazza and Miss Cookie together up in front. Joe Tackon on to those cobbles, and as you can see, the revs at 64, 65 out of the saddle there, 143. The heart rate kicking out the watts as well. And this climb, I quite like it because it twists and turns. You don't have any long stretch. I think probably, Emma, you're almost the opposite. You'd rather know where you're getting to, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, I have. Well, it's not one of my most favourite climbs. It's short and it's sharp, and you're up it in less than 2 minutes. I'd much rather sit and tap for 20.
Oh, no, 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 definitely don't want to do 20 minutes up it. I have done, but I don't like doing it.
This one always gets me because I always think I've done the steepest section, and then you go around the next right-hand bend and it was even steeper than the last right-hand bend. And I have to say, when I race on this or when I've done the Donny Chaingang on this, I always make the mistake of going too early. I go too fast and too hard at the bottom, and I pay for it at the top.
It's an easier mistake to make on here, that is for sure. For sure. A rider's come round the turn. It's Joe Tackon, our next rider, lining herself up. She can see that gantry in front of her, so it's going to be Joe, our next rider, up Libby Hill on the after party here on the WOW DCG. Great riding, Joe. Good to have you back on the gang once again. And Joe comes in and through. Now heading out onto the warm down, and that leaves us our dynamic duo of Mad Mazza and Miss Cookie. So here we go. You can see the riders just on the way round, taking the right-hand turn here. Miss Cookie is on the back of this duo, and I have a horrible sneaky feeling she's just employed some kind of ghosting, or maybe it's just our screens that we can't quite get back to see what the riders are up to. Let's have a little bit of a check and a look.
Yeah, so they are going to come up and they're going to take this right-hand corner, oh, look at that, it goes over 20% as they kick up onto these final sections of this route today. And in fact, there is the finish arch in front of them. So they are going to come in to finish the Libby Hill after party with Mad Mazza just taking that, with Miss Cookie, our red beacon, bringing up the rear. So 1.8k of warm down for these two now, and it's great to have had all our riders through that.
It is indeed. A big thank you to our beacons, to Becky Story, and of course to Miss Cookie. And we are going to see how the riders just roll in here. I'm going to let them get their warm down done. So please remember, guys, make sure that you get the warm down sorted. Jump onto the gang. We can see our riders just taking a nice spin down at the moment and getting that heart rate back down, getting that lactic acid flushed out of the legs. And I've got to say, great to see our riders working so hard here on the Libby Hill after party. Emma, it's been a cracker. It's great to see our riders, and we've got another great beacon. We've got somebody who's actually done our yellow beacon before next week, haven't we?
Yeah, so fabulous ride today. I do love the Libby Hill after party course, and it was so great to see that group of 15 split on that final lap to a group of 9 and a group of 6 before those attacks on that final climb. Next week, Matt, we are in France. We are on RGV, and we will do one full lap of RGV, and then on the second lap we will finish at the Ballon Sprint.
A Matt special route, definitely. It's great one, Matt. I love that.
Yeah, and our yellow beacon next week is Alison Kinlock. You're right, Alison was indeed our yellow beacon for us last winter, and she will be dropping into that yellow beacon next week.
So yellow beacon is going to be Alison. Emma, thank you very much for joining us here today, yet again in the studios, and don't forget lots more riding to come. You can join Emma. Don't forget to follow Emma. It's at Biking Emma.
It is indeed.
Excellent stuff. Thank you, Emma. So all that is left is for me to get ready to go. We're going to leave Miss Cookie And when we do so, I want to say a massive thank you to the guys who are over there. They literally look after the people who look after the gang. And they're the people who watch the watches. They are our fantastic supporters. So please make sure you support the people who support the Chain Gang. Tell your friends about it. Jump on. Come and join the ride. Join on a Tuesday, Thursday, and of course our WoW DCGs. Don't forget, of course, we'll be back next week with the WoW DCG. We've got lots more racing and riding coming up, and of course we are back on the DCG again tomorrow. So make sure you get registered for that. From myself, from Emma, from Russ, and from everybody on the Donny Chain Gang. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.